What is up, everybody? This is the Wild Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett, and this is episode 107. Today's guest is Erin McDonald. She's back on the podcast, and she is the owner of 8 Wellness Collective. And we're going to talk. So this episode was fun. We talked about a lot of random stuff related to mostly mental health and mindset. So yes, we talk a little bit about fat loss and working out and that kind of stuff. But most of the stuff we talk about is related to mindset on this podcast, which, from me coaching for over 10 years now, find that most people need to work on the mindset. And once you get that piece down, then everything else becomes much easier. So I think you'll take a lot out of this episode, even if it's not directly related to you. A lot of the stuff we do talk about in our personal lives, what we've experienced or what we've seen with clients, when we're talking about mindset on this episode, I think you're going to get something out of it that will help you along with your journey and your goals. What's up, Erin?
Hello.
Welcome back. So last time we talked about a bunch of awesome stuff, and that was a great episode, but you're back for part 2. And I'm super excited because I think you have a lot to offer the audience.
Thanks for having me back.
Of course. So a couple things that you talk about a lot on your social media and with your clients is kind of like mental health and wellness. And obviously this is a massive rabbit hole that can go off in 1,000 different directions. But maybe like for the person who's thinking about, but I jumped the gun. By the way, if you want to learn more about Erin, go back to her first episode where she was on the podcast. But for the person who's like kind of like just starting out with mental health and trying to like get started, where should they, what do you do as a coach to help that person with their mental health?
Well, first I should say I'm not a mental health professional. I'm a coach. So this isn't medical advice by any means, but this is just from personal experience dealing with anxiety and depression for most of my life and combating that through Western medicine modalities as well as health, wellness, and nutritional modalities. And I found, when they were combined together, that has been the most effective for me and the people that we see within our coaching space and our coaching community. I think the first place to start is kind of analyzing what is going on with you internally. Most people don't really have a good grasp on what is going on. And that's why I'll preach, nutrition and wellness till the day I die, probably because of the autonomy it gives us as humans to be able to like identify if we're anxious, if we're depressed. Most of the time we're just like, something's wrong. Or if we're sick, a lot of times anxiety can manifest as illness. There's a lot of things that go along with mental health conditions that, connected to the gut, the microbiome, IBS, things like that we might not identify as anxiety or depression, but are. And so starting to figure out how you will approach treatment and how you will start to get relief. I personally think the best course of action is to start modifying nutritional intake immediately, as well as start to develop a routine to avoid having decision fatigue, and getting help for that, as well as, if you need anxiety medication and you need therapy. I've done all of those things. So I kind of like a combination of like more holistic and then medicinal as well. I'm kind of more on the holistic side now, but I think picking one and, depending on the severity of your symptoms, you might need to go to the route of medication first. And if your symptoms are a little bit more mild, you can go the direction of nutritional shifts first, because as we know, if you start to work on nutrition or adding movement, walking, things like that, it's not going to it's not going to fix within a week. Whereas you might see some changes or experience some relief within a week or so of taking a medication, but that, that has to be up to each individual. At this point, I'm not on any sort of pharmaceuticals. And I do know that through fixing my gut and healing some of what was going on internally, I was able to get off of medication. So I think that just like that self-analysis that we tend to not do, we'll just like either ignore it until it's so bad that we can't ignore it anymore, or we go directly to one source, and usually that source is pharmaceutical. And I think that there are other ways that this can be addressed, and also like act quicker and last longer if we are to like if we pair them all together.
Yeah, I think there was a study out of maybe it was Australia or New Zealand where they found that like exercise worked better than most like antidepressant medications. The problem is if you have anxiety and depression, like actually exercising. And that's
Yeah.
where I'm all for as well, the more holistic side. But medications have a time and place. And if you need that additional help, like if it gets you from to get off the couch and get started, then use the medication. And then maybe down the road you can get off of it. I worked with a client who had severe MS and then severe depression from it for like 7 or 8 years. I worked with her. And she was like, the medication gets me out of the house. It doesn't
Yeah.
help much else other, but it gets her out of the house. And then it's like the exercise like helps with everything else. So there's always a time and place with it. But I want to go back a little bit. Something you said there is decision fatigue. This is something I don't think a lot of people know about it, or they've heard it but don't fully understand it. What's so important about like not having decision fatigue? Because once you explain it, so many people are going to be like, "Oh my god, that's me." But how do you get around decision fatigue?
Well, I think the main way is to create a routine. What people don't recognize is all of these micro decisions that we make. And I actually posted about that today. Is and there's a number, there was a study, and you can just Google it. I didn't Google it. I don't, but it's high. The amount of decisions that we have to make in a day that we don't even register. It starts from the moment the alarm goes off. Do we hit snooze? Do we get right out of bed? What happens then? Like, what are we going to wear? What are we going to pack the kids for lunch? Like all of those little micro decisions. And we don't even think about them because the bigger decisions or the bigger stressors take up more space in our brain, more rent in our brain. Like if a kid is sick, who's going to stay home? Like we're not even thinking about whether we snoozed or not, but all of those decisions add up to a like massive amount of overwhelm and decision fatigue. And there's ways to combat that. And the main one is to focus on the big things that you have to do in life. We have to feed ourselves. We have to work. We have to take care of the children. And so what are the things that we can do within those realms that we can lower our decision fatigue? So let's just say you get up and one of your kids is sick and you're overwhelmed with figuring out who's going to babysit or stay home from work or where you're going to drop them off, and you don't eat breakfast. Well, if you had a shake or a prepped meal in the fridge, you would know your breakfast was set while dealing with the bigger decision or the bigger stressor, rather than skipping that meal, getting to lunch, realizing you're starving, stressed out, you've overconsumed caffeine, and then you go through a drive-through. And so then you're like feel guilty because you had a health and wellness goal that didn't include McDonald's or whatever, but that was the only option that you had. And so then you have guilt that leads into the rest of the day. You're still dealing with a sick kid. And so maybe then you order pizza because you're just kind of in that mode of like, screw it. And that can continue. It leads to self-sabotage. It leads to long-term, like poor decision-making habits that we're not even realizing that we're making. And if we combat that with having some routine and are prepared for the day, we're lowering the amount of decisions that we have to make, and therefore lowering the decision fatigue when we have to deal with, even if it's not a crazy day, the kids go to school fine, whatever, there's still stuff that comes up. You're get stuck in traffic, all of that stuff that like we're dealing with throughout the day that we just think are normal situations for life are adding up to the reasons why we're not making the healthy decisions that we want to make.
This is one of the reasons that like Mark Zuckerberg wears the same clothes. Like
Yeah.
he has so many big decisions to make. So he's like, what can I eliminate? And people find it silly until you start to realize like if you are making a ton of decisions. Because, like, for your example, okay, the person didn't pack lunch. Now they have to decide what place they're going to go through for drive through. Then they have to decide what they're going to order. It's like
Yep.
all those things add up. Um, I think there was some sort of study of like you only have like X amount of like decisions you can make in a day or something before fatigue sets in. I forget what the exact number is or anything in general, but if you're like burning that up with like just going with the flow in quotes there, you're gonna struggle with like long-term consistency because as soon as the flow gets like blocked off by like you said, kid gets sick, like everything just like crumbles.
Yep.
Versus if like I love it like when we plan out all of our meals, like because I don't have to think about it. I just go upstairs, I look at whatever the note is, like, oh, that's what we have to get out for tomorrow, and here's what we have to do today. Like there's no thing. It's a one-time decision on the weekend, and the rest of the week, I don't have to worry about it. Meals are prepped, like all the decisions were made at one time within like a 15-minute span.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a health and wellness goal, it's the best thing that you can do, and that's usually why people assume they can't lose weight because of hormones or because of whatever else is going on, but oftentimes it's that decision fatigue that's causing a anxiety response, and you're making, like you said, you're going through the drive-through, and I know if it's me and I'm starving, I'm not making the best decisions. I want something fast, and I probably want pizza or burger or whatever, which is fine to have. But if you're making that decision more often than you want to for your goals, that also is leading to a stressor or an anxiety response that like, so we're like stacking anxieties.
Stacking. It's like the Uno hand card or the
Exactly.
Uno
Yeah.
hand. Just
Yeah.
draw four, draw
You get a
four.
five. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Oh, that's a good way to put it, like just stacking. Because then by the time you get home, you're just like way overstimulated, and then you're exhausted. You're like, I don't want to think about anything. Like you're not going to work out. You're not going to make good decisions because you're just like mentally fried. Because
Yep.
if we've all had that experience taking like some sort of test, whether a high school or college or a certification, where like after the test, after you made 50, 100, 150 decisions, which is like filling out those Scantron sheets, like you're exhausted, even though you sat there for an hour, just like
Yeah.
coloring in circles and reading, like you're exhausted. So same thing happens in real life.
Yeah, it's that like mentally fried. And most of us are there more often than we're not there.
Yes.
It's because we have no plan. We're just like going about our day in this like haphazard way from, again, waking up to the time we go to bed. And the time we go to bed is all over the place, and we're scrolling on our phones all day. And that's an anxiety trigger as well. So again, there's another stack. So we just keep going.
Don't read the comments.
Yeah, exactly.
If I want to have a good day, it's that. Don't read the comments,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
especially Instagram's, but TikTok, oh my God.
Yeah. They get ugly on
They're
TikTok.
they're ugly on TikTok. Twitter's gone better. Twitter used to be like a toxic cesspool. Now mostly it's just troll. Like you realize it's just like a troll on Twitter. They like once a week I'm on there. Like I use it for like a handful. Like if I see like a breaking news story, I go to Twitter for it. Um, and then I'm like, what's in the comment? And I probably should have gone down here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even if that entertains you, it's still an anxiety
You
because you have
don't
to
leave
decide.
feeling good. You feel
No.
leave feeling just like the best way is like dirty.
Yeah.
Like you don't feel like you don't leave happy.
Yeah. No. Annoyed. Like somebody's comment is living rent free in your brain. You don't even realize, like, they don't know that
Yes.
they pissed you off that day, but like, and you have to live with that for the rest of the day or even the next day, depending on how annoyed it made you. So yeah,
Yep.
the comment section, got to stay far away from that.
Yep. And don't engage. Don't read it. Don't engage in it.
No,
Unless you have
that's
something positive to say. You can comment on the errands in my stuff in positive fashion. Helps
yeah.
with the algorithm.
Yep.
um so yeah, scrolling's a big thing, and that's where decision fatigue kind of stops people from because that's another thing of like just scrolling and deciding what content you're going to stop on. Like even though it's not like super conscious, it's still like deciding what app to open. Are you going to scroll? Are you going to stop? Are you going to go to the next one? Like they're small, but they add up.
Yeah. And there's a dopamine response. So it makes you feel good. So that's
Yeah.
the other thing is like every time you might see something you like, or I mean, it's targeted ads, you're shopping, you're like, but I mean, it's mostly counterproductive. I even, we work online and most of my scrolling, I'll admit, is counterproductive. I say I'm working, but like the working part of
Trying
that
to get
is
content ideas.
yeah, exactly. It's like we all have an excuse, especially when I'm laying in bed, 8 o'clock at night watching TV and scrolling. Like it serves no purpose other than it makes me feel good. But it's not serving my anxiety. It's not serving my sleep. It's like doing the exact opposite of both of those things.
I will say for TikTok, I just go to like the following page. Like you have the options for scrolling, like it's friends or following. I try to avoid, and I catch myself every once in a while, like the for you one or whatever that one is. I'll catch myself. I'm like, why am I like this content is terrible. I'll go like, okay, this is content I want because I purge people all the time. Like if it's not helping me in some way, I don't want it. So I'll go through that. But even that, like even it though I have mostly educational content, like I'll say I'm working like I'm looking for content ideas. Like, is the history of Rome really helping me with content ideas?
Right.
No. In the
Yeah.
middle of the day, no.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, whether you work online or not, we're all kind of in that space. Like maybe right now it's Christmas shopping. You might say, like, I'm online, I'm Christmas shopping for the kids. Well, like at which percentage of that is Christmas shopping for the kids and which percentage of that is shopping for you or just scrolling? Like all of those things are like keeping us like hyper like fixated on whatever's happening in the internet land and not grounding ourselves in whatever's happening with like our wellness or our personal space or all of those things.
I find like this is not on this part. Well, it's kind of really Christmas shopping's gotten a lot harder. Like
Has
you have
it?
to go through like a lot for like kids. You have to go through a lot of crap to find like decent things, and that because everything else is targeted towards me.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, okay, no, no, no. So like, unless I know the search terms, I'm like, I don't know what to look for sometimes. I'm like, just give me like kid stuff, and then it's like a whole bunch of crap. I'm like, so you're just there, like again, mindlessly scrolling, and then they're like, "Oh, you like kid stuff? You clicked on this one thing of Bluey. Now this is going to be on your like page every time you open up Amazon." Like, oh, that was one time.
Yep. And yeah, they're smart. They know.
Yeah, literally had that conversation with my mother-in-law this morning. She came in, she's like, "I'm about done with Facebook and Instagram. I'm about to delete them because all I get's ads." She's like, "I can get pictures of the girls from you guys every day."
Yeah, it's true. It is very targeted and that's keeping us wired and overly stimulated, all of that stuff that like again is not helping our mental health.
No, because people have also gotten really good at headlines and talking points like grab your attention immediately because everyone has like a 3-second attention span. So it has to be something that stands out to stop the scroll or you don't watch it. So if it's something that's a targeted ad and it's a good ad, it's going to stop you because it's something ridiculous or something that hits a pain point and immediately, and then you're like, oh, it's an ad. Fuck this.
Yep. Yep, it's true. I think that's why I struggle with Instagram so much because of that. Like, I'm mentally blocked from that like immediate need for pleasure or whatever whatever it is it's giving me. But I have a hard time with content on Instagram because of that. Because I'm very aware of pain points and triggers, and I know that that's what you're supposed to do with those kinds of social medias, but I also don't really want to pain point or trigger people because I know like that is it's been problematic for me in the past. So I have this like, I want to write and I write long form. That's like primarily what I do, which is not conducive to Instagram at all.
No,
Like
it's not.
there's,
It's
there's not a whole lot.
fantastic, but no.
Yeah. So I do struggle there, but I mean, it's not like I'm not on there. The stories I love, I'm like, watching what everybody's doing in their lives. So
Um, yeah, it's almost sounds like you need to be like more like YouTube, like long form.
I do. Yeah. YouTube or podcast. I'm just like, I've been very cognizant of like not trying to do too much because I will and be like, I'm going
Yes.
to on YouTube, I'm going to get a podcast. I'm going to do like, and then all of a sudden the overwhelm again sets in and I'm already overwhelmed enough. I own a business and have employees. And so it's like those things need to come in time, but it's taken a long time for me to get to a place where I mean, for a year, I've been like, I should start a podcast. And like, no, you do not have the mental bandwidth to do that right now. Chill out. But it'll come when but you're right. I think that those long form type of like social media situations are way more conducive to like the way that I speak.
Uh, yes, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how I talk. Probably why I like having you on is it's the way I like to talk because I have an idea like to record something, but again, it's pain points, really good pain points. But I hate like opening up and like triggering someone right away. Like I'm like because it's not really. I don't want to trigger anyone going into it. I want to like educate them, so I don't want someone like going in like walls up.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like it's that balancing act, and I hate that. I'm like, can I just like educate people and give like good content out there? And nope, that's not how you play the game anymore.
No, it's not.
No.
It's
Even in
okay.
some podcasts, like if you like the clips and things people put out there, it's so just like diced up and out of context that makes you like, I gotta go and like listen to this podcast. Like that is so out of context that once you listen to it, you're like, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was just like spliced at the right moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything down to email, like subject lines that will say something that, something personal, like I overcoming drug addiction or going through a divorce or like those things that people click on that they want to see that, the tea being spilled. But like, do you really give a shit if I want to help you with your anxiety and your nutrition? Or do you care that like I'm having problems in my relationship? I'm not, but like those are the things that get people to open
Yes.
emails or open TikToks or whatever. And so like that's what we're constantly being inundated with too, is all these little like baby triggers all day where we're like, and if you're empathic by any sense, like you're directed towards like the feels of that. And so then we're also triggered by like feeling other people's emotions.
Yes. Alex actually did a something with her. She was like, someone said this to my dog, and she had Chewy in the video, like in her car. And then she turned around and was like, nope, this is actually your self talk. And so many people are like, I was about to throw hands in the comments. It's like, yeah, that's the direction everything's gone. And I kind of hate it. I kind of hate that for social
It's
media,
hard.
but
Yeah,
it
it's
is
really
because
hard.
for me, it's back. It's like taking the end of what would normally be like the reel or the content, putting to the front, then filling in details. Like what? What? Why can't I just like give the details like long form, like we do with like a podcast and stuff? Nope. You gotta like jumble it all up. But
Yeah, well, and it's because they want to shove the message into your face and then hope that you can consume more content. But a lot of people like I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all day long. But a lot of people don't, especially if they're longer episodes.
yeah,
Like they want to listen to it in 20 minutes or 10 minutes and get the information that they need. But like really the information that you need, especially if you're working on a big goal, is a lot more nuanced than a 10-minute podcast or a quick reel on Instagram. So I struggle with that every single day because I'm like, can we just talk? Like I want to get real and I want to talk to you for a long time. And people are like, nope, one
no,
minute. You get
moving
a minute.
on. Dude, I listen to 2 3 hour podcasts all the time. I just like it takes me all week to get through it because I like turn
Yeah.
on with my workout. I was like, okay, it's 3 hours with like someone who's interesting. That's the thing. Like you find someone interesting, like I'll turn on like the Joe Rogan podcast, which are almost always 3 hours. I think you have some opinions about him, but um I'll listen to only people like I'm like, that sounds like an interesting person. But the rest of them, I'm like, why would I like listen for 3 hours with this? Like, for me, like the comedian, like I'm not interested in. But okay, he has an astrophysicist on there. Yeah, I'm gonna listen to like 3 hours. Like, what is this conversation? Or like my favorite, one of my favorites was when he had the beekeeper on there. I learned so much about bees, random things I had with my workout. But or he'll bring people on who like talk like on the news, they'll have like a 2 minute clip. Like you can't get this nuanced thing in 2 minutes, which is a little better than social media. Like, let's come on and talk for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Great. Now I actually have information. Like I actually learned something. It's why college courses aren't 60 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. I like those too. I'm like, maybe I'm a little bit of a nerd and I'm cool with that, but I like those kinds of podcasts. I like watching documentaries. Like I'll dive deep into like medical journals and stuff. So that like, I mean, that's a me thing. But it it speaks to who I am also is like I really want to be educated on things. I really want to know the background before I make a decision, or especially if it's something that affects me or my community. I'll take a huge deep dive. I did that during the pandemic. I listened to news constantly, which everyone's like, don't do that. You're gonna like, speaking of anxiety, but I felt like I was more mentally prepared for what was to come because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I was consuming the information. And so like this is by no means like polarizing anything. This is just saying like I knew both sides and I was like educating myself. And so when things came up that most people like were like afraid of or was new information to them, or even like during the election, like the weird things that happened during the election with the mail-in votes and all of that stuff, like there were a lot of projections by experts on that, and I knew that that's what we were going to start to see because I was listening to that stuff. And so that's, I mean, I've always been kind of a deep diver into information too. So I think that's probably where my social or like my anxiety on social media comes in, is I'm getting 30-minute clips, or I'm getting people fighting with each other in comments like you're talking about. And there's like really no background information on either side. No matter what side you're on, they're just fighting to fight.
Yes. Well, like TikTok, like comments, you're limited to the number of characters. So you can't give like an actual nuanced thing, which is like almost done on purpose, I feel.
Probably.
Instagram, you can, but then there's like very limited editing. So it's just like one giant paragraph or a comment. And then the comment under that from the person you're fighting with is like, I'm not reading all that.
Yeah.
I'm like, which is kind of fair because half the time, like if I see that, I'm not either.
Same.
Even
Yeah.
if it's really well done. Usually it's not, though. Usually it's not well done.
I try really hard. I used to argue online a lot in my younger days, but now I think there's been one over this past year, and that was medical weight loss. And it got heated, and I realized why I don't do it, because it just like, even though I
You're
felt like
waiting for
my,
that notification to come in.
yeah, exactly. And I felt like I mean, my argument was better than theirs. And I felt like if somebody were to win a social media argument, I won it. But the amount of like mental stress it put me through to like constantly be getting these notifications from people on my phone and having to go in and respond was not worth the, I don't know, the attention that or whatever I got from that post. But
I like doing the video responses to some of those because usually they're not going to do the same thing. So it kind of shuts it down right away. You can also give more context and nuance with a video response.
true.
But yeah, usually they're not, or they're going to continue like commenting, and then people are going to jump, and then it helps with the social media. So I just look at it like, okay, great. And it's always usually it's an anonymous. I think I saw that one though. That was not an anonymous account, but half the time they're like anonymous accounts set on private with like zero posts. Like, are you actually a person or a bot?
Yeah, or they're, yeah, or just a troll. No,
Yeah.
these were real people on this
Yes, I
particular
do
post.
remember that now because I was like watching that one. I was like, oh, geez,
Yeah,
that did get heated.
it did.
But it's like some people do that every single day. It's like no
Yeah,
wonder your mental health's in the tank.
exactly. No, there's, well, and that's the people that fight online, that is a profession for them, I think. Like these particular people did not want to stop. And I finally was like, I have to end this because they are, and what I did was I just blocked them because I, like I
Hmm.
just, it's just a better
Yeah.
outlet for me. Like and then they complained about me blocking them. I was like, you don't agree with me. Like, why do you want to see my content? Why do you want to be?
Why are you arguing and then pushing this post out to even more people that you
Yeah,
don't like?
exactly. Hmm.
Um, I had someone I like gave like healthy, like low calorie ways to like flavor food. So like flavored chicken so it doesn't suck. 'Cause everyone gets like burnt out with chicken breast. And the person comes on and is like, nothing you recommended was healthy. I'm like, it was like lemon, soy sauce. What the hell? And just posted this giant thing. I did a reaction before I blocked this person, but he was like saying that milk was the reason we're having like all so many people like becoming trans, like the gender identity issues. It's because of milk
It
and the
was milk.
hormones put into milk. I'm like reading his whole thing. I'm like, what is this? But this is the online world. He
Yep.
screenshotted, blocked. Like, no. And some people
Yeah.
were like, why didn't you leave that up? I'm like, I don't want other people reading that and getting any ideas that this might be a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, confirmation bias is a thing too, all over the internet, is like people looking to support their weird ideas. And we all, I mean, I do it too, but that's part of it, is that like, I mean, I'm sure there's a whole community of people who are blaming milk hormones for social problems or social issues or something that they deem to be a social issue. Um, and they can live together there. So like, so part of social media, I guess, is beneficial in that capacity because they can have a group of people that think milk is causing
Well, that's the
sexuality to other
the
people. I don't know, like
the flat Earth community is wild. Have you seen any
right.
of that on TikTok?
No, I haven't got into that. I'm sure that that's a fun hole to go down.
Probably because like my nerdy thing is like I like astronomy, so because of that, flat Earth
You're
came as
connected.
part of it, and like, oh my goodness, that is a rabbit hole of like talk about confirmation biases and just like so many little things, and they're like, what's your source? The Bible. Or it's just like they have no source and they're like, well, NASA's trying to hide it, or this is like, what what are you guys doing that you think the world is flat, surrounded? Like the perimeter of the world is apparently like the firmament's this wall of ice, and we're under this like dome. I'm like, what drugs are you guys taking? Like, how many shrooms did you guys take, and how much acid all at once? Like, what was the combination? Because this puzzle you put together is wild.
We all need something to believe in, I suppose. Maybe that's, yeah, I don't, everybody needs to find somebody that.
Yeah, but that's confirmation biases. Then they're all in the community. Apparently, there was a flat Earth conference. Someone showed that there was a actual conference for. I was like, that's wild. That's wild that all these people actually believe this.
Yeah. I mean, cults are a thing for a reason.
Yes, yeah.
Community is huge.
People still think carbs are bad. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yep.
who was I was on Beth Farraco's page, and her thing of eat meat, carbs kill. That reel of hers popped up. Someone commented that she's like, I'm gonna do both because she doesn't give a fuck, and she was like eating a sandwich on the reel, and it's like, wow, people still think like carbs are bad. Like this is wild. We're in 2023, but
Yep.
carnivore and vegan still going strong online.
Yeah. Yeah. And worse.
Worse
The
because again,
diet.
that just like everything, you get in the echo chambers with your for you page, and then that perpetuates, and then you're like commenting on other people's things. I had someone comment about oxalates. That's the newest one I found. Is like oxalates. All of a sudden, everybody's commenting on oxalates being terrible for you, and they're the cause of all your issues. I'm like, since yeah, some people might have an issue, but since when is kale and spinach with oxalates causing issues?
Oh no.
That's the rabbit hole we're gonna die on. Like what?
Well, yeah,
Someone's resource was this woman who wrote an entire book on oxalates being the hidden cause of all your health issues.
it's just like some lady that didn't like kale.
Right.
And she like or she personally, that's why social media is so dangerous too, is especially TikTok, because it's brilliant and it knows what you're like, what you like and what you stop
Yes.
on. And so if you have some sort of like issue going on, or you're seeking confirmation bias, like it's going to put you, that's where all the flat earthers live, like it's connecting you with other ones. And so then your entire feed is that. So you just think everybody thinks that way.
Yes.
Like the rest of the world, like my feed has a bunch of mini cows on it. So I just think everybody has mini cows, and I don't have a mini cow and I'm jealous. So like that's like my confirmation bias is that like I'm deprived because I don't have a mini cow and theirs is, but it's like it's detrimental to our mental health because we also don't experience the rest of the world and like opinions of other people. So if somebody were to say like, like something against flat earth society, they're like, well, all of us over here think that this is right and you are clearly wrong because you're not in this like realm. But really it's, I don't even know, like probably a very small percentage of people that even care about
Yeah.
the flat earth society, but they think it's all that exists.
Yes. It's wild. The internet's
Yeah.
a wild place. And you're right. The algorithms, they see everything and they direct you down whatever rabbit hole you want. So if you have issues with, and also like a lot of these culty type fad diets, they're going to tie into hormones, gut health, and all these other buzzwords. So if you're having issues and you're like, good diet for gut health, all of a sudden you're like inundated with all these different things saying, this is bad, avoid this, avoid this, avoid this. And then you get to like, oh, I guess I'm going to eat a diet of ice cubes. And then next thing you see is like, water is bad for you.
Yeah. Yep.
Buy this $5,000 machine that what was it? Structures through water. That was something I was like, what is this now?
Yep.
How much does this got? $5,000 for this machine that does what? Structures your water. Pretty sure the water I drink works just fine. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And well, yeah. And there's always a product that goes
Yes.
with it. So water is bad for you, but not if you have this machine, like, and that's the thing too. It's like consumerism. So then you think you have to have the machine. And if you don't have $5,000, then your stress, like, again, we're back to the anxiety stack. Like I need to save up $5,000 to buy this water thing, purifier
Yes.
thing, so that I can be healthy and lose weight or whatever. When really like you didn't need any of that shit. You could have just drank regular water and you along with carbs or whatever else we are preaching that is bad, when it's really the things that we know are bad, like overconsumption of shitty food, overconsumption of social media, overconsumption of like negativity. Like those are the things. And if we think about it logically as humans, that like that like those are the things we should stay away from or like consume in moderation, and everything else, whatever it is that you like, consume that in a higher capacity.
Yeah. So we've shit on social media a whole bunch, yet we use social media for like our businesses. Social media is a great place, but I like what you said, the overconsumption of it, or just having like toxic feeds. Like if you're like, oh, I need to see how this plays out. And it's just something that
Yeah.
like like you said way like earlier about Twitter, like lives in your head rent free. Like if anything's doing that, you cut that out. Cause I've had
Yeah.
clients where they're telling me stuff. I'm like, you need to like purge your social media. Like you need to go through and unfollow and unfriend all these people. And the ones that actually do it always come back like a week or two later, like, oh my God, I feel so much better. My mental health's so much better. Like, yeah, because you got rid of all the toxicity.
Yeah, in comparison, like if you're comparing your life to somebody else's life, I think we get in a trap of that too. And social media,
Absolutely.
it's a highlight reel. And especially if you see, and we are both nutrition coaches, and so in the nutrition space there's a lot of like very good looking people, fit bodies, very lean, and I mean, those people are posting photos that they took at a photo shoot after a cut, for an entire year. The same photos that don't look like that currently, because we're not always living in these like super lean bodies. And so that's another thing, is like, how is this person so lean all the time? And I even do that to myself,
Yeah.
because knowing that it's impossible to live that lean all the time, I still am like, what the hell? She's got abs. I don't. And that's something to be like very cognizant of too, is like, we're watching the highlight reel. Like, nobody posts their kids having meltdowns. They post them doing cute shit. And nobody posts like their, I mean, we do see a little bit of like body posts from some reputable coaches that like show that there's stomach fat and rolls and cellulite, and we all have that stuff. But oftentimes it's post bodybuilding competition looking super lean and tan, and we think that we can get there. And so then we're constantly comparing ourselves to that level of athleticism, or they're just athletes and that's what they do for their whole last job. So that's another thing, especially like CrossFit people. Like,
Yeah.
people like, I want to look like this CrossFit chick. And I'm like, well, okay, you're going to need to train for like 7 hours a day. So you'll probably have to quit your job, and you probably shouldn't have kids. So if you already do, you're going to have to get rid of them. And like, it's just not like, those are the things that we constantly are doing to ourselves on social media.
Yes, absolutely. um, I've done a few photo shoots like after when I was competing and everything. And so if you guys don't know the audience, like we went to multiple locations. So it looked like I could post photos and it would look like I was lean all year round, but we just went to multiple locations and it took all day. Like it was 8 hours of shooting for both. The one was only 2 hours, but the actual really professional one was 8 hours of shooting. Like you are doing a lot of photos, and then you can just use those and trickle it throughout the year. Like if 52 weeks in the year, 8 hours, you don't think you're going to have like 100 some photos you could just put out twice a week, and then you do like other thing like videos and stuff where you have clothes on hiding it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Or the lighting, like we still know how to play with lighting,
Oh yeah.
like, especially if you have a gym with like good kind of lower, like, but overhead lighting, and you work out and you have some ab definition or some delt definition or whatever, like, but you're sucking it in and you're posing like, all of that it's a pose. It's not like we don't look like that sitting here. We don't look like that all the time in regular lighting. So like, those are things to be very cognizant of in the internet world also.
We have I like what Goob, whatever his full name is, like exposing all the frauds who like Photoshop their stuff. Like so many people are getting Photoshopped. Then you have all the filters. Like some of the filters are wild.
Yeah.
Like that is not your real face in the real world. Like
No, the filters. Yeah, the TikTok filters are crazy, because some of them you can't even tell like that they are filters, but they are portraying a version of this person that is probably never going to exist. Like, even if you had professional makeup done and all of the things, like, you still don't look like that.
Yeah. You'd have to probably drop 20 grand on plastic surgery, and maybe if they didn't botch it, maybe you would look like that after professional makeup.
Well, plastic surgery is a thing too. There's a lot of women getting like the Brazilian butt lifts and like tummy tucks, and then they post their shit. I saw a coach the other day who is she's in her 50s, I think. She had a tummy tuck, and if you see it, you can tell. And I don't care. Like, I think that's great. If you want to have plastic surgery, especially if you have skin from babies or you lost a lot of weight, whatever, but like, you need to say that in your content. Like, mm-hmm. I worked really hard. I lost 100 pounds and I had some extra skin, because if somebody just sees this flat stomach and they have the like extra skin from babies or whatever the case may be, they feel like they're never going to get there. And so it's like, you can't just say working out and eating chicken got me here. It was that plus plastic surgery, or especially with hypertrophy or muscle growth. Like, if you grow, a lot of girls want a bigger butt, but if you got your bigger butt from butt implants, like, just said butt a lot. But like, there it is again. You have to say that there's no
Yes.
shame if that's what you want to do. We can do whatever we want with our bodies, but like, you can't assume that you can't tell people to grow by doing hip thrusts when you grew by going under the knife. And that happens all the time.
They're getting better. You can kind of tell. Usually, a lot of times, like proportions are really off. Like the butt's really off. Like
Yeah.
you can kind of tell. But yes, it's a real thing, and it's more common than people think. And I think just because I was in the bodybuilding world for quite a few years, like that was just women getting surgery was just like normal. Like, in fact, for a lot of them, like bikini competitors, it's the expectation that they're going to get implants, possibly
Yep.
have some other surgery done. But there's nothing wrong with it. My wife's had some cosmetic surgery done. I don't have any issues with it, but you need to be open about it if you have it done. Like, just be open and honest. You'll have better audience, unless you're
Yeah.
just trying to get like the likes and clicks for OnlyFans.
Which is fine too. But I mean, if you're selling
But if you're
health and
selling courses, yeah,
like, we need to know if like which part was achieved through what you're selling and which part was achieved through a medical intervention. And it's okay to say that you've done both. I think it resonates really well with people if you say, like, I had a conversation this weekend, and a girl asked, one of the girls I was with was like, I can't believe you're 41. And she's like, how do you look that good? And was like, well, health and Botox. So like, it's okay to like admit that you get a little help. Like I get my gray hairs covered too, but it, understanding that there's like a balance there, and understanding that like not everybody exists in perfection is really important. And that's, I mean, a huge anxiety trigger.
if that was you comment that was my things that I was like making fun of a hypothetical person. You're like, don't come after my talks. I don't give
She likes
a
it.
shit. Yeah, I don't give a shit if people. My wife's like, when I'm gonna get it, like, if we have the money for it, like, I don't care. I don't
Yeah,
care if you do. You do you. But if you're selling skin product and you're saying this is what gives me my smooth, perfect skin, and you're leaving out that you get Botox, that's an issue.
exactly.
Same thing. This is how you get flat abs and get rid of excess skin. You can't get rid of excess skin. Only surgery can do that. So if you're selling a program for like the mom pooch 2.0 and it's like get perfect flat abs, like, no, you're lying. That's dishonest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, I mean, it's not fair. And that's, the downside. There's a lot of benefits, like we said, of social media, but the downside of social media is that those underlying things that nobody tells you about, and where we have unrealistic expectations of what our bodies, or we are like really just capable of doing as normal non-athlete, like some people get paid to be influencers. Like, I am not one of those people, so I can't spend my day like making sure that all of my physical appearance is on point. Like, this is what you get on social media. But some people can, and like, understanding that is key to navigating that space without like over triggering negative thoughts, emotions, anxiety, comparison, all that stuff.
Comparison is a big one there. But
Huge.
yes. We are kind of out of time. I'm like, wow, all of a sudden it's 1 o'clock my time. So any last thoughts or anything you want to end this podcast with?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is just being very aware of your body and your feelings and your emotions, and understanding that it's normal to experience issues with anxiety. I think they say 1/3 of our population has an anxiety disorder, and pairing that with proper nutrition. And if you want to reach out, I can chat with you on what proper nutrition looks like, but just a few things like omega Three, fatty acids are huge. Making sure you're getting enough protein, making sure you're getting enough micronutrients, probiotics, all of those things have been like medically proven to lower symptoms of anxiety in whether or not you pair them with pharmaceuticals and therapy, but all three of them together could be the miracle cure. So just like understanding that and starting to make some mindful shifts in your behaviors. Like if you have fat loss goals, this will all help with that too. But the anxiety should be treated first and then work on the symptoms of like fat loss resistance or whatever. But I think once you figure out that you can like calm your anxiety, a lot of those other like symptoms like fat loss resistance probably become a lot easier to navigate, because usually it's we're going full circle, the self-sabotage that's causing fat loss resistance, and that's triggered by high anxiety responses. So
Exactly. So where can people find you?
I am on TikTok at Coach Erin McDonald, same one on Instagram. And then I'm on Facebook, just under Erin McDonald, or I have a Facebook group called Commit to Fit.
Awesome. So those links will be down in the show notes, guys. So if you want to follow Erin or you want to reach out to her and ask her anything, especially if you're dealing with anxiety, because she said 1/3 have anxiety disorders. So probably 2/3 of people deal with anxiety.
Yep.
I've definitely felt some serious anxiety running a business. So yeah, probably 3/4. 3/4 is more likely. Yeah. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to her. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into today's episode. As always, make sure you drop down to the show notes and give Erin a follow on Instagram or TikTok. I know I'm not sure about Instagram, but I know TikTok, she tends to go live there, so you can actually interact with her one-on-one a lot of times on TikTok if you're on TikTok, or join her Facebook group. And as always, please go ahead and share this episode on your social media or send it to a friend or family member who would get a lot out of it. And drop a 5-star review if you enjoyed the episode, and leave a review. If you're on the platform that you can actually write a review, do write something, as I do go through weekly and look at those. So it is helpful for the podcast. It also helps push the podcast out there so more people can find it, because ultimately I'm trying to help people, and so can't help anyone if people aren't listening in. So go ahead, rate the show, leave a review, and then also share it if possible. Thanks, guys.